We are joined now by Julie Brenner, President and CEO of Alliance for Coalitions for Healthy Communities, along with Tracy Chirikas, Recovery Support Manager. Thank you to the both of you for being with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
The opportunity.
And Julie, we can go ahead if you want and start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your organization?
Sure. So we are the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities. We've been in Oakland County since 2003. We're really about building healthy communities through substance abuse prevention, wellness, and recovery support. We also have a 21 prevention coalition network that we support as well to increase all of the interventions that we put in place to make sure that we're building healthy and strong communities.
We've talked quite a bit on this show about the rise in substance abuse during the pandemic. What are you and your team members seeing during this time?
High anxiety and stress, which is resulting in a lot of relapse, unfortunately. We have definitely an uptick in overdose death rates that I'm going to let Tracy tackle a little bit more as that is part of her position.
Great. So yes, in addition to what Julie has said, that stay at home, stay safe order that went into place on March 23rd increased stress and anxiety with individuals who do struggle with substance use disorder or opiate use disorder. And isolation is the last place that people really need to be or should be when they require support services.
But what do you do for people who shouldn't be alone, but yet they're being forced to be alone right now?
So we've had to really help our communities further shatter the stigma surrounding the disease of substance use disorder. And what we mean by that is we have to talk real and we have to talk raw sometimes with true harm reduction language. So during those shelter in place orders, we have really changed the way we communicate as well by helping people who do need recovery support services or find themselves with challenging situations where they're having difficulty navigating, obtaining the right resources. We've encouraged buddy systems so that if they are using, that they need to, in fact, align with a buddy. Why would we do that, right? That seems so counterintuitive for what we would talk about. But the fact of the matter is if we don't know individuals are using, then we can't get them the help that they desperately need, especially during these heightened, isolated times. We have increased all of our virtual support programs from 1 a week to 3 virtual platforms every single week. And the conversation continues, even in this long, drawn out event that we find ourselves in, that stress level continues to climb, even with the holidays, approaching. So it is a very difficult and challenging time for all of us, but those who struggle with the disease of substance use disorder are at heightened risk, as are our elderly individuals.
Tracy, speaking with you, I noticed that you're saying substance use disorder rather than substance abuse. So how we even use the terminology surrounding substance use, is that important as well?
It is important because I think as family members and part of my background and, part of what makes me so passionate about what we do at the Alliance is I am a parent of an individual in long-term recovery from IV heroin use. And to be quite honest, it's a scary time, and that isn't part of what we saw in the fine print of giving birth to our loved ones. So when that happens, we immediately as parents, I think the natural response to that is, oh my goodness, where have I failed? And legitimately, we go back through this Rolodex in our mind, right to the point that they were born moving forward. Where did I miss? Where did I miss as the parent? Because, part of parenting, there is some codependency involved for our children, right? To survive and thrive in an environment. But codependency with substance use disorder can become a very dangerous environment for all parties involved.
Julie, if I could bring you into the conversation, as Tracy was just talking about, was the use. But do you feel like there is a big push on the federal level right now to legalize marijuana, while we are already seeing it on the state level, including here in Michigan? If it were to pass and be legalized on a federal level, what do you think, or how do you think that would impact the work that you're doing and your team members are doing?
Sure. So one of the issues that we focus on is youth recreational marijuana use. And we know that as a gateway substance, marijuana is one of them. The organization as a whole, again, we take a stance on youth use, especially with brain development. It's very well known that the brains are developing in our young people until they're 25. So we're trying to mitigate that. From the federal level, locally, statewide, we, again, don't take a stance on medicinal use, but we do take a stance on youth misuse and everything that surrounds that, from driving buzzed, making sure that kids aren't recognizing or that they have access to it from their parents. There is definitely a perception of risk. There's definitely access from adults and other people around them. So just making sure and empowering parents, grandparents, caregivers, anybody out there that has influence on a young person, that they're protecting them.
And with that, right now, so many kids are at home so much more, and especially high school kids that are remote learning. And for a lot of them, they're home alone. So
Yes.
are you seeing an uptick and more and more kids starting to use various drugs because they are home alone and now they have access, maybe, whereas they wouldn't before if they were in school?
We are seeing that. And one of the biggest things right now is vaping. Or ENDS, electronic nicotine devices, and then also the addition of THC to those items. Yes, we're seeing definitely an uptick in that. And within probably the next 6 months to a year, we'll definitely have more results to share with you on what has been happening over the last 9 months. But this isolation and access definitely have affected youth misuse and increases for sure.
So with that, what should parents be looking for?
Parents need to pay attention. One of the things that I highly recommend is, if you own the phone or the car, you own the house, take a look at what's going on with your children. Making sure that, especially with virtual school and things like that, that they are online, that they're working on the work that they're supposed to. Also mood changes, getting them help if they need it, getting them help if they ask for it. I would say there's probably a lot more youth out there that are a little tearier, a little more prompted to anger and things like that. If we think about it as an adult and all those things happen to us and the stresses we feel, most of us have outlets. Most of us know who to turn to. Our youth are supposed to be turning to us. And if they aren't, they're turning to their friends for sure. And they're definitely turning to the internet, whether it's social media sites, things like that. Pay attention. It is not that hard to see what the kids are actually up to, and making sure that you're enforcing your rules. They still apply. Just because we're doing it virtually doesn't mean that all the things that we expect of our young people aren't in place. They are. They should be, and enforced. There is definitely some leniency. Definitely. I'm a parent myself of 2 teenagers, and I find that, they're sleeping in a little bit later, or, they're requesting different things to eat or whatever. Have some leniency in those regards. But when it comes to dangerous behaviors, lock up your alcohol. Pay attention to what you have in your cupboards, making sure that your prescription drugs are being monitored and are stored properly. And that includes your marijuana.
With that, how do parents know that it's not just the pandemic and the stress from the pandemic that their kids are going through versus possibly abusing substances, illegal substances, or even just starting to experiment with them as well?
Right. So again, this goes back into like parenting 101. We're never given a handbook for all of this, kind of like what Tracy was saying. We don't know what we don't know. But at the same time, we have a ton of resources on that. If you don't know how to talk to your young person about, the dangers of marijuana use, or how it can affect your lungs, we have a ton of resources on our website that they can go to. I've got a whole team of people that, and coalitions, 21 coalitions that focus on empowering youth to make good choices. And again, a lot of this is common sense. And sometimes it's hard to articulate that enough as a parent to a parent. But the reality is we're trying to create an environment where these young people succeed. And if they're using substances or they're stealing or they're displaying some disturbing behaviors, there is help out there. Just ask. And again, we're happy to help in any way, shape, or form.
And Tracy, if I can bounce the conversation back over into your court right now, what advice do you give to other students or friends that maybe are noticing their friends going down the wrong path, but aren't comfortable with going to an adult yet?
You know, they can reach out to us at the Alliance. We are there. We are ready to help them. And we do get these phone calls from, you know, our youth. But also what we want that message conveyed to our youth is that if they are suspecting this from a close friend, family member, they are all protected by the Michigan Good Samaritan Law, Act 307, you know, which was part of the Public Acts of 2016. They are all protected by that. And the name of the game is to really keep one another safe and to be our brother's keeper. Being a good friend, that's truly what a good friend equates to. We can't protect our friends when it comes to this kind of things. We have to help them.
Because I would think sometimes maybe it's the friends are the first to notice the warning signs.
They are the first to notice, but they're also the most afraid because there's that friend connection where they don't want to violate that. So, you know, these are conversations that youth and parents should be having together around that table, talking about and role playing these kind of scenarios on how to help that youth without their friend being outed, for example, under peer pressure. You know, they can work that through together to come up with strategies that make sense to help that young person and their friend saving face at the same time. Because that's a critical component to socialization, you know, for all of us as well.
Julie, just about another minute with the two of you here on the Oakland County MegaCast, but one last question for you. How have you had to change how you get your message out during this pandemic?
Well, the word of the day or the word of the month is pivot. So within a week of us, you know, going into quarantine, we shifted everything online. So all of our support programs, including our ability to provide our Save a Life Narcan trainings, to educational components that we do with youth, renewed, keep them safe, keep them healthy. Everything is online and accessible. Everybody that's in the Alliance team has just blown my mind in terms of their ability to adapt to technology. So we've really embraced that, and can all be found online. Where we can actually go into classrooms and go into treatment centers and things like that with our programming.
So with that, what do you think will stick around once we get on the other side of this crisis?
All of it, all of this. It was like a 2022 goal. COVID definitely pushed us a little bit faster to move everything online. It will remain there. We will still have our face-to-face opportunities as well. But I think that we have an ability to access more people in a larger area for sure. And we're definitely a lot more impactful if we can meet people where they're at.
Well, we appreciate the both of you taking time out of your schedule to be able to talk to us about this very important issue. So thank you to the both of you, and let's hope that our kids remain safe and healthy going through this crisis.
Great. Thanks, Ronnie.
Thank you. Have a great holiday.
You too. Happy holidays to the both of you as well. If you need help, reach out, ask for help. It's okay to do so.